All right, Texas in the ARCA car. Standard setup right now for ARCA. Again, you can choose whatever you want for steering ratio, steering offset. I'm also going to go -3 on the in-car brake bias because you want all that rotation you can get when you do that little brake tap going into turn 1. And on this track temperature, that's all you'll need. You won't need any brake into turn 3, but you will be using quite a bit of brake as you go into turn 1 later in the run. So we're going to be doing a second lap hot lap. Can't really get up to speed. So I'm just gonna not do too much on my tires here. So really, I like to call this a one-turn track because getting into turn 1 is just going to be your entire run. And I get a little bit of an arc and then drag and then get on the gas as early as possible, but I'm not going to do that for this lap, of course. Setting it for lap 2, you don't want to go too high. There really isn't much to be had right by the wall of Texas, so I actually just kind of go middle. Like second lane, right on the seam maybe. And I keep the wheel turned. Just get the good run off the corner. If you're too high, you have to turn your wheel even more and it doesn't really work. So we're gonna arc, smooth off, a little brake tap, get to the bottom, then go. Good run. Probably could have throttled a little bit earlier, but you don't want to get tight. So now we're gonna full throttle this. You might not want to really stick on the bottom, but that's okay. You just kind of chase it. It'll stick. You probably can get on the bottom, but it's a little sketchy down there. There's a little bumps, and you don't gain that much in that with how the tires are gripping up there. Probably a pretty cool track temp. I was running 0.9s earlier. Started a new session, instantly got a 0.7, so we're probably a little bit cold on the track temp, but that's okay. Idea is still the same. Very, very simple, actually. The hardest part about this is getting the timing back on throttle, because we're not going to wait for the car to set like we usually do, because we're really pushing the hot lap here, and Texas has such a wide turn 2. So I really don't start turning in until after this Texas sign here, and then I smooth off throttle. Notice how I start turning in. I'm not off the throttle yet. I turn in full throttle, and then I smooth off throttle, and then I don't get on the brake until a lane off the bottom, okay? If you brake too early, you're just going to kill your momentum. We're using the brake for rotation, and when do we want rotation? When we're trying to set the angle as we're getting to the white line. So from about 1 lane up all the way to the white, I'm going to be on the trail brake, and then not all the way to the white, sorry, when you're just almost at the white line, because we're pushing this, because we're on a qual lap, we're going to throttle through the white line. So see how I'm about 1/4 lane up, throttle through it. And then I wait to go full throttle until I'm able to unload the steering wheel, and you can see the car sticks to the white line for me, and that's because I chose the correct amount of throttle, which was about 80%. It's quite a bit here, but if I went 100 there, I would have started plowing. So you got to be careful. If you start plowing off the white line, I call it bouncing off the white line, or ping-ponging, whatever you want to call it, or I call it all those things, but once you bounce off that line, that means that you had too much throttle at that moment. So you want to have a less amount of throttle so that it sticks. But then once it sticks, you're free to go full throttle and unload the wheel. Easily make the corner. Like, I could have pushed even harder there. And then for turn 3 and 4, like, it's not the biggest deal here. I really am trying to get it to stick to the bottom, but I'm also kind of finding that amount of wheel where if I turn it anymore, I feel like I'm either bogging down the car, kicking out the rears. You can probably gain a couple hundredths there, but I'm not too worried about the 3 and 4. You can probably lab out full throttle 3 and 4 for a couple hundredths if you really want to. But if you're spending that amount of time to get 3 and 4 down pat, you should probably spend that time getting 1 and 2 down, because that carries even more. In terms of long run, different line in 1 and 2. We're gonna do the anti-arc line. That qual line that we were running will become good 25 laps into the run, so keep that in mind. But the reason that it's not good early run is because you just use so much more tire to do almost the same thing as what we're gonna do. And what I like to say is that turn 1 and 2 is the skill corner, and 3 and 4 is a skill check. So how much did you save your tires? Well, you full throttle 3 and 4 and find out. Be careful of cold tires on the start. These ARCA cars on cold tires have been kind of crazy lately. So instead of going all the way out, I'm going to stay about a lane off, and then I'm just going to ease the car down, and then try to get the car to stick on the white here, sorry. Cold tires is rough. Lost about 2/10 or 3/10 there. Ideally, we want to be only losing like about 1/10.5 to our best lap, but that was only our lap 1, so we'll see what it's like on lap 2. So lap 2 here, we're going to stay in the bottom, ease it in, use the brake to kind of turn on the white, and then go. So see how we have a pretty comparable run coming off the corner than when we arced it? So that should equalize right at about 2/10. So that's about where I want it. It's going to be really hard for someone to drive you around your outside at that. And then along with that, I actually lift a bit into the corner here. Oh, you know what? I probably should have done that for the actual lap too, a little lift. That little lift there is probably better than trying to force the full throttle, even if the full throttle is kind of possible. So that's good to know. That's a couple hundredths that you guys can get for free there. But you see how little my car is working, and I'm not really doing anything, but I'm still not that slow. A little lift before the banking, get back in the throttle, stay on the bottom. Yeah, I can see how that's better than just trying to force the full throttle. At the end of the day, only worth a couple hundredths, so I don't think it's too bad for a hot lap. So I'm still trying to get full throttle as early as possible down the bottom here. But notice how the car at no point is like fighting up or down the track. And that's what's going to pay dividends later in the run. I'm going to do a full push like qualifying lap run here. So let's do like a full arc and let's see how good we are compared to the last lap. Oops, I messed up. So about 1/10 at this point. So is it really worth that 1/10 right there to be shredding an extra that'll be worth like at least 10% on your right front by the end of the race if you're doing that every lap, if not more, really, compared to this. And you're not going to do this for the whole race. You're going to do this for about 20 laps. Okay, so 1/10.5 there. So if you're really battling, like, sure, go ahead. But if you have more than like 2/10 behind your bumper, like that's how you save the tire, and that's going to equalize before you know it, and then it'll spread out again once the right front gets to a point where it doesn't like the anti-arc line anymore, which is fine. But yeah, just try and keep the car from as little lateral motion as possible. That's really the goal. And I could go into it more and more, but that's a topic for another time. Even tire wear there, you see. That's what you're shooting for. If you're arcing that 1 and 2 every single corner, that's going to be a right front bonanza. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.